Yo people, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to show you a quick, easy and free way to create your own meal plan so you can get huge, mate, like me. So who is a meal plan for? Well, anyone who wants one really. Some people use it to help them gain weight, some to help them lose weight, some to make sure that they're not missing out on any essential food groups, and some people just like the routine and predictability of it all so that they can do the same food shop, budget for stuff, meal prep, all that kind of stuff. Personally, I don't follow one because I don't want to, but you're not me, you might want to, and if you do, then, well, you obviously do because you clicked on this video, so I'll just tell you how to do it. We'll first run through targets for calories, protein, carbs and fat, and then we'll go into how best to hit those targets. I'm going to go through this pretty quick because I've gone through it like multiple times before, and so have like a million other people, but I still want you to be able to get it all from the one video, so I'm going to go through it again because I'm sound. So setting your calories is pretty much a three-step process. Number one, finding your theoretical maintenance calories. Number two, adding or subtracting a figure from that to get your actual starting calories. And number three, testing and refining that figure as you go along. So the first two involve a pretty significant margin of error, and the third one is where you really like drill down to it and get some actual accuracy. Number one, finding your theoretical maintenance. Basically, right, you go to Google, you type in TDEE calculator or calorie calculator. You look for one that asks you for like quite a bit of info, maybe stuff about your activity level, estimated body fat percentage, that kind of stuff. Plug in your details, get an estimate, right? We can go into the finer details of like what formulae they use, but it's pretty much irrelevant because you're always going to have Google, so just use a calculator on Google. If you want to be more accurate, you could maybe do a few and average out the answer, or alternatively, if you want to be pretty rough, you could just take your body weight in pounds and multiply it by like 15 to 17 based on like how active you are. So for example, me, let's say I'm about 175 pounds, fairly active, times by 17, that's 2,975 calories. Sounds like there or thereabouts for my maintenance. So number two, finding your actual starting calories. If you want to lose weight, you could do what most people do and just take a blanket 500 calories away from that initial theoretical maintenance figure, or you could do it proportionally and take 20% away from that initial figure. Personally, I think proportionally makes more sense. So if I was going to take off the 500 calories in this example, it would be 2,975 minus 500, 2,475, or I would go with 80% of 2,975, which is 2,380 calories. If you want to gain weight generally, you can add as many calories as you want really, but proceed with caution because you might die. Or if you want to gain muscle, but I assume are hoping to reduce the amount of fat gain that comes with that muscle, then you want to bulk in a gradual surplus, or you want to be slightly above your maintenance. I would add 250 calories as the blanket figure, or just add 10% on top of that theoretical maintenance. So for me, that would be 2,975 plus 250, 3,225, or 2,975 times 110%, which is 3,273 calories. Again, I would probably go with the proportional one, the percentage. Now, some people do like to gain weight or bulk using an even shallower surplus, i.e. by adding fewer calories if they are particularly afraid of gaining any excess fat, or they just judge themselves to have a fairly low capacity for building muscle. That's fair enough, but I think for most people, probably 90% of you, 250 calories above maintenance is probably fine. No one's getting fat off an extra 250 calories. Plus, making gains super slowly can be like somewhat demotivating. And also, if you do gain a little bit of fat, it's actually like pretty easy to lose. So I'd just not be scared of it and go with 250 or 10%. Any shallower is probably like a bit overly cautious for most people. Yo, let me just cut in and say that I understand that not everybody will be wanting to gain weight or lose weight. Some people might want to like maintain their weight. Some people might not know what to do. I understand some people might be skinny fat and think, should I gain weight? Should I lose weight? What do I do? Please help me. I am here to help. I have done a video about what you should do if you're skinny fat. You can go and watch it. I will also link that in the description. So back to the video. Number three, test and refine. Consume your calculated starting calories over a period of weeks. Ideally, weighing yourself every single morning before food. If your weight is moving in the right direction at an acceptable rate, then great, carry on. If not, add or subtract some calories and repeat the process until your rate of weight change falls within an acceptable range. Now, obviously, gaining weight is going to take longer than losing weight, or it's going to be a slower rate. So it might take you longer to discern whether your calories are appropriate for that. Okay, protein, carbs and fat. I'm just gonna run through this super quick. Protein, just eat 1 gram per pound of body weight. You can get away with a little bit less. You can certainly get away with a little bit more. If you do, you probably won't notice any discernible difference whatsoever, ever. So I would just eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight and then never think about it again. I think it's best to be safe with fats because you do actually need them to survive, to be able to absorb vitamins, hormonal function, shit like that, mate, important stuff. So I would go with 25% of calories or 0.4 grams of fat per pound of body weight as a minimum. You can certainly go higher if you want, but I probably wouldn't go any lower, at least not for any prolonged period of time. And then I just make up the remaining calories with carbs. So take my example, 2975 calories is my calculated TDE, times 80% for my cutting calories or weight loss calories, 2,380. Now within that 2,380, I'll have 175 grams of protein because that's 1 gram per pound of body weight, and then 0.4 grams of fat per pound of body weight gives me 175 times 0.4 equals 70 grams. So I've got 70 grams, times that by 9 because there's 9 calories per gram of fat, times my 175 by 4 because there's 4 calories per gram of protein, and then take that whole number away from 2,380 and I divide that by 4 to get my grams of carbs. So that gives me 263 grams of carbs. Micronutrients, fiber, etc. Let's just touch on this really quickly. Before you can get massive and shredded, you do in fact need to be alive and in a general state of good health. Yeah, being alive is a pretty basic prerequisite of making gains. Whilst I don't think you need to be particularly concerned with your specific requirements for each individual vitamin, mineral, etc., you do certainly need to remain conscious of 4 main points. Number 1, the amount and variety of fruit you consume. Number 2, the amount and variety of veg you consume. Number 3, the amount of fiber you consume. And number 4, the types of fat that you consume within your fat target. So monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, omega-3s, yeah, good fats, healthy fats, you know what I'm saying. All right, so let's get to actually making the meal plan. There are a few different ways you can do this, but by far the easiest and most convenient is just to use an app like MyFitnessPal. So download MyFitnessPal, log in, go to the goals section, and then enter the calories and macros that you have calculated for yourself. Now it will probably only allow you to set the macros to the closest 5 grams without upgrading to premium, but that's probably fine, to be honest. It's probably close enough. It's not gonna make any difference, right? There is a workaround you can do if you wanna download a plugin and do it all through your web browser, but I think it's probably not worth it. I'll leave a link to a video showing how to do that if you really wanna do it. Now there's 3 meals and space for snacks, but if you have 4 meals, you can just use the smacks? You can just use the snacks as a de facto meal for. So then just go through meal by meal and add in whatever you typically eat, really. Don't worry too much about hitting the macros and calories for now because you can tweak that later. So a few general tips whilst you're doing this. Try to divide your protein somewhat evenly over your meals, or if you have a protein shake at some point in the day, then you could divide it evenly between your meals and that shake. So what I'm saying is you have roughly equal protein hits. Start with your protein sources that can't be adjusted. For example, if you eat tins of tuna or chicken breasts, you would start with those because it's not like you're gonna open a new can of tuna or like chop the end off another chicken breast just to get another 5 grams of protein if you're short, right? Whereas protein sources like whey or like liquid egg whites can be adjusted easily to get the right amount of protein if you're a few grams short or over. Including some fat sources like nuts or nut butter also help with hitting your fats to some degree of accuracy since they can be easily adjusted. So I'm just gonna whiz through this and put together a relatively typical day of eating for myself. Now I've got that, I can go and check the macros and then go back and make any minor adjustments I need to make until I'm there or thereabout. So if I need to adjust protein, I'll just go through and tweak those things that I mentioned, like egg whites or the amount of whey protein powder I'm using in a shake. If I need to change my carbs, I will just go through and manipulate the portion sizes in my main meals. So maybe have a little bit less rice, a little bit less pasta, whatever it needs to be. And if I need to adjust the fats, I can just change the amount of peanut butter that I'm using or oil or whatever it is. Now, obviously, while you're trying to adjust to hit your protein target, you might inadvertently throw off your carbs again. And so you might have to go back into a few times. And this is why foods that are predominantly 1 macro are particularly useful, because you can adjust those without having any impact on the other macros. So for example, fat sources that are very low in protein and carbs, protein sources that are low in, you know what I'm saying. I don't need to go through those. Then once you have your first day, you can just go to the next day and do the same thing all over again. If you want to keep some meals the same, you can just copy the meals across. Or if you just want to change like one component of the meal, for example, your carb source in a meal or your protein source, maybe you want to swap out chicken and put in some fish, then you can copy the whole meal, delete the single component that you want to change, and then add the new one into it. Then you obviously might have to go back through and adjust minor amounts to balance out the macros again. And the good thing about MyFitnessPal is if you use complete entries, so ones with all the nutritional information, it'll show you your micronutrients as well as your macronutrients. Now, you don't absolutely have to use MyFitnessPal to do this. You could use Excel if you're decent on it, and if you're not decent, you could just watch a few videos on YouTube and become decent on it. But that would require you to enter in all your own nutritional info to a database, which you can then use lookup functions to drag that data from. It's a little bit more complex. I think it's probably not worth your time. To be honest, I just use MyFitnessPal. One advantage of doing it that way is that you could, even if you were so inclined, add in columns for the cost of each individual food, work out proportionally, and you could pretty easily put together something that gave you the cost of every single meal, every day's worth of meals, etc, etc. So some people might find that useful. Now, if you don't want to track your calories, you don't absolutely have to. Lots of people go with a much more rough approach and just adjust, increase or decrease their portion sizes in different ways. For example, if you eat chicken, broccoli and sweet potato often, then you might start having 2 potatoes instead of 3 if you're not losing weight, right? Or if you have peanut butter on toast, you might start spreading it a little bit thinner. Or if you eat cereal every night, you might start using a smaller bowl, right? It's just portion control. It's just an indirect way of reducing your calories, even though you don't actually know what those calories are. And if you want to do it that way, that is probably completely fine. I'm sure you can still make progress that way. It just might be a little bit more difficult because you are kind of going in blind to some extent. But that being said, Arnold did not have MyFitnessPal back in the day, did he? So, I mean, he did have a lot of D-ball, but you know what I'm saying? Like, people haven't had calorie tracking apps for a long time and they've still managed to gain and lose weight. So, all right, that's it. I hope you found it somewhat useful. I know that I will have just told a lot of people like stuff they already knew, but maybe some people didn't, so that's fine as well. Right, see you later.
Jordy Lenny is my hero.